Welcome to the October segment of 71 Magazine. I'm your host, John Bryenton. And first, we'd like to thank OMU for underwriting this segment. And now we'd like to introduce Sonya Dixon, who is joining us this morning, and she is a communications specialist with OMU. Sonya, welcome to the show.
Thank you for having me.
You know, it's here we are, it's fall.
It is.
And winter is just upon us. So I guess it's time that we really start talking about how to prepare our homes for this winter.
You know, you said that, and my first thought was winter is coming. So for those Games of Thrones fans, they kind of know what we're talking about. But winter is coming, and we're talking about this early enough so that you have time to get outside and maybe take care of some of those things that will help winterize your home.
You know, that's probably a good idea before it gets too cold and then you don't want to go outside. Well, let's begin first of all with our HVAC units. Okay.
65% of your electric bill each month is due to your heating and cooling of your home. So if you're going to want to make a difference, that's where you want to go first. And that's why we're going to talk about a lot of things that sort of relate to that. What's important about that is making sure, get a checkup. You know, chances are you've had your oil changed in the last couple of months, or you've gone for your dental visit, those sorts of things. So you want to get a checkup just as you would for anything else for your HVAC unit. If you're one of those people that's handy and can get in there and do it yourself, more power to you. For those of us that can't, why don't call a trusted professional and have them come out. And what you're going to want them to do is just make sure that everything is clean inside and everything is good, and that it's going to be operating at its maximum efficiency. The things that you can do and not have to call a contractor is make sure that you have debris cleared away from that. And that's going to happen. You're going to have to do that several times because typically it's leaves and twigs and dirt. You know, if you've been weed eating around it, make sure that you're keeping grass and that sort of thing out of there. Because when you clog up those vents and those filters, it's harder for the unit to work. So that's a very simple thing to do. And you can certainly take a hose. Your outdoor unit is weatherproof.
Right.
So make sure you can get out there and hose it out and kind of keep all of those things out of it.
Yep. Well, I'll tell you what, changing the filters in the house, to me, this is one of the easiest things to do.
It is.
And I think typically you can get, I've known when I go to get a air filter, you can get an air filter that's good for 6 months, that's hypoallergenic, that's good for 3 months. But I think a good standard is every 3 months is when I change my filter, and I try just to put a date on the filter that's in there so I don't forget.
Oh, smart idea.
Yeah, and I think too, renters, I think this is a very, very easy way for you to save money on your electric and heating and air conditioning.
You're right. It is the most simple thing to do. A lot of people, there are some people who change them every month. They're due to allergens and those sorts of things. But you're right, every 3 months. And that's one of those things you don't want to make your system have to push any harder than it has to. And if it's struggling to push air through that filter, then it's working a lot harder. When it's working a lot harder, it's using a lot more power. When it's using more power, you're spending more money.
Right. Another thing I do, Sonya, is before winter, I had an experience at Halloween one time. It got cold, so I turned my furnace on. Didn't work, wouldn't start. It's cold out, the house got very cold. So what I do now is in the fall, while it's still nice, I will turn my furnace on just to make sure that the blower kicks on and it fires and is putting out warm air. Exactly,
and that's there's always a contest about who doesn't turn their air on in the spring and who doesn't turn their heat on in the winter. Exactly, I lose every time because I don't want to wait until the dead of winter or when perhaps I can't get someone to come in and fix it. So certainly doing a test run, that also that's a good chance to let you know, okay, where do I have leaks in my house? Especially if you have a duct work that you can see. For instance, in my basement, I have duct work above, and I can check and see if I have leaks and things like that. That's always a good idea. Once again, you can do that as part of your checkup.
Okay, let's move on. Doors and weather stripping, which I know is a big challenge for people at times.
It is, and this is a challenge for both renters and homeowners. During the summer or over the year, if you have weather stripping, sometimes that gets a little old, it gets a little cracked. It's much better than it used to be. Yes. But making sure that windows and doors are sealed. And that's all your outdoor, not just the one that you're coming in and out the most. That's the one you think of. Your front door, for instance, if that's one you use, that's the one that you think about. And making sure that, you don't want any draft coming in. You don't want my grandmother used to call it your bot air to go out or the air from the outside to come in. You want to be able to temperature control your home, and the best way to do that is not to have that air exchange.
Yeah, I'll tell you, the easiest way I found to look at it is on a sunny day. I turn my hall light off and I look at my door and I can see You can see light. If you see light, then that means and listen, changing weather stripping, I can even do that.
Well, you know, they have some self-adhesive. They have some that's very easy to measure and nail in and tack in. You can even have some that you can staple in. It's very, very easy. You know, they used to say, you know, you could hold the candle around your door.
Right.
Well, chances are, if you're seeing it flicker, even if you hold your hand around your door or window, you're going to be able to tell where that draft is.
Absolutely. Now let's talk about windows.
You know, windows cause people a lot of problem because you're opening and closing them all summer. Lots of times you forget, for instance, if they're double hung windows, if you have not latched them very tightly. For instance, your upper window, we've talked about this before, has maybe let down a little bit, slipped a little bit, and you're getting some leakage there. You know, they need weather stripping as well. You know, that gets old, or it breaks, or it's gotten old, or even mildewy if it's getting water in there. So you're going to want to replace that as well and make sure that it's good and tight.
Now, here's the thing that I think people should look for, especially renters. They should be looking for houses or apartments that have double pane windows.
They should. You'd be surprised what a difference that makes. And not just in the leaking of air around them, but if you've ever put your hand to a single paned window, you know how much cold air is coming, or how much cold temperature is transferring through that window. You know, that's one thing. It's so much easier as a renter to start thinking about those things before you get into the home or into the apartment. And, you know, so there were several things to look at. You know, maybe looking at the heating and air unit. Right. How old is it? Does it look like it's been maintained? You know, that sort of thing. You know, you can walk around a house and an apartment and see how well insulated they are. Are the doors, ceiling okay? Those sorts of things.
And here's the other really good news, and something that OMU offers, is you can simply call OMU and they will give you the high and the low and the average of the bills.
You know, they can share some information with you. I think making a wise decision going in. What happens is sometimes renters get in and they think, oh, this is reasonable rent. Wow, the deposit's not too bad, but the home or apartment's not well insulated, or it hasn't been maintained properly. And when that happens, then sometimes you could have you know, an electric and water bill that's larger than your rent.
Exactly.
So just thinking about those things before you rent, before you sign on the dotted line.
That's right. Those are great tips, Sonya. Is there anything we can do about the vents in our house?
You know, well, first of all, vacuum those out. Do everything that you can to make sure that it's healthy as well, but make sure that nothing is blocking that. You know, it's really easy, you know, for furniture to come up against it, or to put a small table over, or drapes. Lots of times vents are near windows and you have drapes that are blocking those, or it's not getting the full flow. Right. So making sure that there's as much of a direct path to get that air moving around your house as you can.
Okay. Now here's something that I think is fantastic, and I really need to do this. I haven't, is programmable thermostat.
You know, probably one of the easiest things you can do. We installed our own, if that tells you anything, and we're not handy people. What's great about that is they're at all price points, just like we talked about the filters as well. And so you can pick from any of that. Very easy to replace. If you can't, certainly call a trusted contractor and have them come in. It helps you regulate the temperature in your home, especially when you're not there. There's no sense in it being air conditioned or heated when you're not there, but you don't want to turn it all the way down.
Right.
Because what happens is you come in your house, if you don't have a programmable thermostat, and you turn it up several degrees. Well, that makes it work harder. It has to push harder. Why not have it start conditioning before you get home? You know, 30 minutes, 45 minutes before you get home, it slowly but surely works up to the temperature that you're most comfortable at.
You know, I was doing a little research before this interview, and I did find out from Energy Star, stated that a programmable thermostat will save you $180 a year in heating and cooling costs.
Easily.
That's worth it.
Oh, certainly. And you know, most of those are well under $50. You can, like I said, you can go all over the range. And certainly if you go to a hardware store and you talk with them, they're going to tell you, do look for an Energy Star version. Most are, but do make sure that you see that seal. But that's just amazing to me, $180. And that's $180 you can put elsewhere in your home.
Absolutely right. Okay, let's share with our viewers that OMU has this customer care program. And tell us about that and who benefits from it.
Oh, it's a great program. All year long, customers donate to the customer care program, and it helps those that are struggling to pay their OMU bill, their utility bill. It's sort of, you can round up, you can give a one-time amount, you can do that any way you want, and it's fantastic in so many ways. That money, it joins the money that OMU donates to the Salvation Army every year, and that group helps us distribute it to make sure that it's done so fairly. They vet the participants very well. We think about it this time of year, because it's cold, people struggle all year long.
That's
as
right.
you can imagine, everybody's asking for a little more money, and we certainly have even had rate increases as well, and we know that affects everyone's bottom line. But just if a number of customers just give a little bit, let's say your bill is the nearest penny is the next 50 cents or the next $1.50 or the next $5. And we have several people that literally just make a donation. They'll write a one-time check. Something that's always fascinated me too, in addition to that, is that we offer gift certificates. This is something we haven't talked about. And you have that neighbor that you would love to help, or someone who's struggling you would want to help. Slipping a gift certificate into their mailbox could certainly make their day and certainly help. And that's one of those costs that a lot of people can't avoid. They don't have as much control. They're a renter and they've done everything they know to do, and they just can't knock that bill down. They just can't manage their usage anymore. So I think it's certainly several ways that you can help. The great thing about the Community Cares is you get your bill and you just write it right on there. You just round it up, or you write an additional check, however you want to do it.
Well, that sounds fantastic. It's a great program. Listen, whether you're renting or you own your own house, I did some extensive searching on your website, and you have some fantastic tips, both for folks who rent and for people who own. So how do people get to that?
Visit omu.org. We made that division for a very good reason. When you're a homeowner, you can invest in your home if you can, but if you're a renter, you can't necessarily make significant changes. But for the new homeowner or for the homeowner that's struggling, some of those renters tips are good as well. But certainly, we wanted you to make good decisions, whether you're looking at owning your own home or you're looking at renting. So certainly they're easy tips. They're easy to read through. We've tried to make it as simple as possible to get through that. But we also post a lot of that sort of information, and we're doing so right now, especially about getting that checkup for your heating and cooling unit. On Facebook and on Twitter. So, if you happen to be reading through our feed, that's a great way, but certainly omu.org.
Listen, I want to compliment you too on your social media, because I obviously have signed up for it, and especially when we had this water outage issue that we talked about a couple months ago, you guys were fantastic in getting information out, even outages. I texted you the other day because, we had an outage down here at the campus, and you guys were already on top of it, and within 20 minutes it was fixed.
Yeah, that's a great way. What's wonderful about texting, and you can sign up for that option at omu.org. I think it's /alerts, but you can search for that really easily. What's great about that is, you don't always have to go look it up on Facebook, or you sign up for that, you get an alert. Lots of times if I'm at work and the outage could be at home or vice versa. So it's just a great way to sign up. It's a free service. You can opt out. We try to be very judicious about that. We don't pester you all the time, so when you get an OMU alert that it's something that you need to look at.
Well, Sonya, thanks so much for joining us
Thank
today.
you.
What a great amount of fantastic information you were able to get out to these folks. And again, I hate to say it, but we're preparing for winter. So.
We are preparing for winter.
Okay, I'll see you next month.
See ya.
And thanks again to OMU for underwriting this segment of 71 Magazine. If you would like additional information, you can call OMU at 926-3200 or go to omu.org. Thanks for joining us, and you just stay tuned. We'll be right back here next month.